Bruchim Habayim, good morning, Morai Rabotai. We are continuing on Masechet Makkot, Daf Chaf Gimel Amud Bet, 17 lines up from the bottom of the Amud. Amar Rabbi Elazar. Today's Amud is being learned as a zchut for Refuah Shelma of Rachel Simcha Bat Nahid, that should have full recovery, Refuah Shelma Be'ezrat Hashem. Amen. This month's learnings, the community has been graciously dedicated and sponsored by the Shea family, by Dayan family, by Cohen families. Should be an ultimate zchut for all the mishpachot Be'ezrat Hashem. Amen. So the Gemara continues. Amar Rabbi Elazar. We spoke about the concept of Shamayim agreeing with the Betin Shel Mata. That's the concept that we were introduced to initially in our Mishnah by Rav Hanania ben Gamliel, mentioning that when you get lashes in the Betin Shel Mata, you are now off the hook from the karet, the chiyuv keretot that you had milamala. And the Gemara went back and forth. Perhaps Rabbi Yosef challenged this. Who went up to see that you get off from the chiyuv of karet? And the Gemara gave three other examples that Betin Shel Mata paskin something, and we know, we darshan from Psukim, that Betin Shel Mala agreed with them. Whether it is saying the name of Hashem, in blessing someone, in greeting someone, whether it is, which we learn from Boaz, two psukim the Gemara brought, whether it is for Leviim, having to bring their maaser to the Beit HaMikdash, all of those things we have from the psukim, and of course Mikra Megillah, which is a mitzvah d'Rabbanan, which seems to be adding to the Torah, and yet we have it from the psukim. Now the Gemara is going to say there are three instances. Once we spoke about three instances of Bedin Shel Mala, another three instances that the Gemara brings that Ruach HaKodesh represented itself in the Beit HaMidrash. Says the Gemara, Be'gimel mekomot הופיע רוח הקודש בבית-דינו של שם ובבית-דינו של שמואל הרמתי ובבית-דינו של שלמה. 3 times in our history we had a clear intervention from HaKadosh Baruch Hu declaring something that we needed to know in our Beit-Din. So one is in Beit-Din of Shem, which means really this is time of before Matan Torah. So it's known as the Yeshiva of Shem Ve'ever, even though that Shem ben Noah was no longer alive in the time of Yehuda, the son of Yaakov Avinu, but it's still considered Bet Dino Shel Shem. It's like Bet Shammai, Bet Hillel, which is the continuation of those schools of thought. Here is also again, Yaakov Avinu went to Yeshiva of Shem Ve'ever for 14 years. So what he taught to his children, the Betin of Yehuda, the son of Yaakov, is the continuation in that way of Shem Ve'ever. So says the Gemara, we all know that Yehuda had a capital punishment judgment on his own daughter-in-law, Tamar, right? So what happened was, Yehuda married off his firstborn son, to Tamar, and was a Rasha in a certain way. He was not a righteous individual. He was killed by Hashem, childless, and he had the concept of Yibum, of a man that dies childless, a person of the family member, close, immediate family member. Now, in the Torah, after Matan Torah, is only the brother. But prior to Matan Torah, as the Ramban points out, was any of the close, immediate family members. It could have been the father of the husband, the father-in-law as well. So here, Yehuda tells Onan, the second son, says, go be meyabim, your sister-in-law. And he marries her. He's also a Rasha. He also dies. Now, Yehuda doesn't know that his sons were not acting properly. The Gemara discusses what exactly they did, that they deserved to die. But Yehuda didn't know that. So Yehuda said, well, this woman is dangerous, right? There's a concept in the Gemara as katlanit, right? A woman that marries people, and whoever she marries, they die. she becomes a katlanit. The Gemara has a machloket tanaim, whether by 2 already is a chazaka or by 3. And the psak is, we're choshesh for dinei nefashot, even by two. So Yehuda says, I'm not giving Shelah, my third son, to this woman. I'm much worried that this is going to happen again. So he played with time. Just Shelah is not old enough yet. But at some point she understood that he's not planning to do it. So she took matters in her own hand. And when Yehuda's wife had passed away already, and the period of Avelut had finished, she goes and she pretends to be a Zonah, and the rest is history. We know exactly what happened. He asked, she had everything thought out methodically from before. She makes him give his Chotemet HaPtilim and Matei Ha'ele, the staff and the stamp, and all the private identifying items that Yehuda had, she takes. And then she disappears before he brings the payment to take back his personal items, because she wanted to have those. And 3 months later, when people think that she is pregnant because she had some sort of promiscuous relationship, and they bring her to Bedin, the psak was, tisaref, hotziua v'tisaref. She will be burnt. She will get capital punishment because she was not allowed to, and she's bakohen, v'serefa. So, as she's coming out, instead of just saying, well, this is no zenut over here, right? I did mitzvah yibum, it was you, and these are the proofs. She could have done it in front of everybody, right? She didn't do that because she didn't want to embarrass a person publicly. That goes again together with the Gemara in a number of places. Gemara Masechet Ketuvot, Gemara Masechet Ba'ametzia, Gemara Sota, that a person better choose to be burned than publicly embarrass and humiliate someone. We learn it from here, right? So what happened was, now the Gemara explains within, picking up from that story, Bebetino shel Shem dichtiv, where do we have Hashem's intervention with a bat kol in Betino shel Shem? Because it says, Vayaker Yehuda vayomer Sadka mimeni. You know what she did was, instead of embarrassing him, in a concealed box, she sends a FedEx to Yehuda, says, open this box, it's for you. Right? And in the box it said, Lemi asher elelo anochi ara. I am impregnated from a person that owns these items, these 3 items. And of course, Yehuda right away realized what the story was. But now he could have chosen not to say anything and not be embarrassed. But the greatness of Yehuda was, he came out and he said, Sadka mimeni, she is a tzadeket, she's correct, it's mimeni, she has this pregnancy from me. So says the Gemara, there's a massive problem with this. Sadka mimeni, how did Yehuda know that's from him? If she's mezaneh, maybe just like she was with you, because he knows her as a zonah. He now remembers that this is the zonah, this is the person that was in a tent on the way. So maybe she was mezanah also with other people. So how do you know that this pregnancy is from you? Maybe it's not. Maybe, just maybe, she already had gotten pregnant, and in order to quiet things down, she planned this whole thing to sleep with you. How do you know? So says the Gemara, that's a powerful question. Says the Gemara, Mena yada, how did Yehuda know? Dilma ki echi de'azal iu legaba, just like he was with her, other people also were with her. Azal nami inish acharina legaba. So says the Gemara, because you misread the pasuk. Yatzat bat kol ve'amad mimeni, Hatzu kibushim, that when he said Sadka, Yehuda said Sadka, the bat kol came and said mimeni. This whole thing was orchestrated, Hashem said, by me. I wanted this to happen. The Midrash actually says, HaKadosh Baruch Hu sent a malach of ta'ava to Yehuda, directing him towards that. It's a whole, a tremendous story that the Midrash presents within the story of Chumash. HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted Mashiach to be planted in that story. Again, there's a lot to be spoken why Mashiach's lineage is a very questionable lineage from the very beginning. It comes from Ruta Moavia, comes from Moav. Moav is Benot Lot with him. So that's like very questionable. And then you get with Yehuda, which is also very questionable, right? Very questionable in this. And then you go with David ben Yishai, which Yishai already had separated from his wife. Was a whole question. David HaMelech was actually casted away because nobody knew who his father was. It was very, very interesting, line of almost consistent line of ambiguous lineage in the lineage of Mashiach. So, be that as it may, a bat kol needed to be coming out and saying, Mimeni, it was from me, Hashem said, Yatzu kivushim, these covered items are all orchestrated by me. So that's the first case. Bebet dino shel Shmuel Haramati. In the Bet Din of Shmuel Haramati was, Dichtiv, Hineni anubi neged Hashem v'neged Meshiach. When Klal Yisrael asked for a king, against the will of Shmuel HaNavi. Again, the Torah gives the mitzvah of appointing a king. If you see the Goyim have king and you also want Asim alay melech, I want to have a melech just like all the Goyim have melech. So then says the Chumash, you could appoint a melech over yourself. Fine. Says the pasuk, Shmuel HaNavi was not happy with the people, so he chastised them in front of Shaul and the inauguration of Shaul in the nomination party, so to speak. Stand, all Klal Yisrael was there, and he takes the opportunity to say to them, I have never taken anything from you. I've been your leader for decades. Did I ever use any favors from anybody? Did I borrow even a person's donkey? Never, ever. Right? This was the preface to his chastising. And says the Gemara, Hineni Anubi, I am here, you're all here, Klal Yisrael, the entire assembly of Klal Yisrael. Anubi, answer. Answer up Neged Hashem in front of Hashem, V'neged Meshicho in front of his Mashiach, his king. Mashiach means anointed one, right? Et Shormila Kachti, whose oxen did I take? With Chamor Mila Kachti, right? With Miash, all of it's a beautiful, beautiful pasuk. I read the long pasuk from the side. It says, Et Shormi lakachti, whose oxen did I get? V'chamor mi lakachti, whose donkey did I borrow or take? V'ed mi ashakti, who did I not pay? V'ed mi ratzoti, who did I pay off or try to appease? U'miad mi lakachti kofer, did I get any payment ever from anybody? Va'ali meinai, to cover my eyes from some wrongdoing that they did. And I'll answer you. Right? So this is a very strong comment. And says the Gemara, Vayomru lo ashaktanu, people answers next pasuk. The entire Klal Yisrael answers, you didn't. You did not withhold payment. You did not try to appease us, to pay off. Velo lakachta miyad ish meuma, you didn't take anything from anybody. Vayomer alehem, and Shmuel answers to that comment, Et Hashem bachem, Hashem should be the testimony. He should be the witness. Ve'et Meshichon, Hashem's king, Shaul, should be a witness. Hayom hazeh, today, ki lo matzatem biyadi meuma, that you didn't find anything wrong with me. Vayomer ed, and he said, I am a witness. Who said? Says the Gemara, it has to be Vayomru. They said. What do you mean Vayomer? So says the Gemara, it is HaKadosh Baruch Hu who testified. Vayomer Ed, Hashem said that I am Ed. So says the Gemara, Vayomer Ed, Vayomer. Says the Gemara, Vayomru mi ba'is. It should say, grammatically correct would be Vayomru. So Yatzad Bat Kol v'amar ani ed b'davar. Hashem's Bat Kol came out and said, I am a witness in this matter. Bebet Dino shel Shlomo, the final one, Bebet Dino shel Shlomo is Dichtiv, Vayar HaMelech Vayomer. The king said, Tenu lah et hayeled achai, vehamet lo temitu. This is the famous judgment of Shlomo when he was a 12-year-old king, right after he was appointed after the death of David HaMelech. And Mishpat Shlomo, the most famous judgment of Shlomo, is two women had children born to them at the same time. They lived in the same place, in the same room, and one of them rolled over her kid and killed it, and woke up and realized what had happened, and conveniently switched the kid with the other child. And the other mother afterwards, as she paid attention to the dead child, realized that this is not her child, and they came to Shlomo HaMelech, right? And this one says, it's my child who's alive. The other one is a charlatan. She switched, and the other one says no. And they're going back and forth, and Shlomo HaMelech says, okay, bring a cherev, and let's cut the child to two, right? The rest is history. We all know the story. And one of them jumped and said, no, just give my child to her and don't kill him. The other one said, okay, if that's the judgment, I'll accept the judgment. And Shlomo HaMelech said, the real mother, the true mother, is the one that objected to the judgment, and so on. So says the Gemara, Dichtiv, the pasuk says, Vayana melech vayomer, tenu lah et hayeled achai, give her the living child, vehamet lo temitu, don't kill the child. I was just testing these women, and give the child to the one that didn't want the child to die, because that's the compassion of a mother. And says the Gemara, Kihi imo, because this is the real true mother. Menayada, how does Shlomo HaMelech know that this was the mother? Well, maybe they're playing a game. Me and you, when we read this pasuk, the story, say, wait a second, what's really the chokhmah over here? The Meiri, many Rishonim were already in the level of the medievals. They were bothered with this, and they wrote each one beautiful insights. But when you read the actual psukim, the story, you're like, what's exactly the genius here? If I was the mother, well, he got lucky, but if I was the mother, I would also say, give the child to the other person to pretend, to show that you are the compassionate one, and you really are the true mother of this child. Dilma, maybe she's just a very smart woman, and she's cheshboning this. It's all baked into the cake, so to speak. So says the Gemara, it's because Yatzat Bat Kol. It was a Bat Kol that came out and said, Ve'amra hi imo. The Bat Kol agreed with Shlomo HaMelech and said, this is the real mother. Hashem wanted to agree with Shlomo HaMelech's judgment in this case. So says the Gemara, Amar Rava. Rava says, I don't buy it. I don't think these are real Bat Kols. Each one of these psukim that you're darshaning could be understood differently. Mimai, says the Gemara, how do you know? Maybe, Dilma Yehuda, by Yehuda kevan the chashiv yarchei v'yomi. You know how Yehuda knew? First of all, he knew because when he went to find the zonah, there's nowhere to be found, and everyone said there's never ever been a zonah here. But also, the months made sense. When he did the cheshbon, he realized that that's exactly the time that he was visiting that town, and so on. The chazinan, mechazkinan, and if you want to say maybe there were other people, Halakha does not reckon with that, because he knew that he was with her. That he knows. And he gave the ptilim, chotemet, mate, all those things he gave to her. So he for sure knows that he slept with her. Maybe somebody else. If we don't see it, we don't assume it. Especially in a case that you know for sure you were a cause, and you want to suspect maybe there are other causes. A negative that we don't see, we don't assume. That's the halachic principle. Says the Gemara, by Shmuel also, Kulu Yisrael, Kari Lo B'Shon Yachid. It means all the Jews, in the case of Shmuel, they said in unison, we all testify. We have many times when Jews all in unison do something, the verbiage is mentioned as a Lashon Yachid. We have it by Vayichan Sham Yisrael Neged Har, right? We have it other places as well. So says the Gemara, maybe that's why it says Vayomer Ed in a singular language. And says the Gemara, I have an example for you. Yisrael lo shab Hashem. It's a singular form in the verbiage of the pasuk. Is mentioned Yisrael lo shab Hashem. Singular form. And the third case, the final case of the judgment of Shlomo, also is not a raya, because midahaka merachmata va'aloka merachmata. So one of them has the compassion. One of them says, cut the child, and the other one says, no, don't cut the child. You see that one of them is the true mother. If they were both smart, then they would both say the same thing. But here, Shlomo Melech, whatever the greatness of this was, ayin berishonim, but however he got it out of them, he did, and that is the reason that they knew the real mother is the one that had compassion. So that really is the three things that the Gemara mentions. There's more to talk about these items, these elements, but we'll continue this in the days to come.